Hey guys, Rick Stone here from Stoney Acres Gardening and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the best 6 crops that you can plant for fall. As you can see, we're in the middle of the summertime. My onions are looking really nice. I'm doing this video in front of the onions because these are going to kind of be a key to one of the reasons why we want to be doing some fall planting. But why am I talking about fall planting in July when this video went live? The reason why is because for a lot of us, if you live in the colder zones and your first frost date lands, somewhere between mid-September to mid-October, it's actually time for you to start thinking about getting some things planted for fall. And so I wanted to take an opportunity to make sure that you guys knew what it is that you should be planting and what the best crops for fall planting are going to be. And the reason why I'm in front of my onions is because this is going to be a great spot for fall planting. My onions are just starting to bulb up. We're probably looking at about 4 or so weeks, maybe 6 at the most. And these onions are going to be done and gone. And all of a sudden I've got this great big space, which is 4 foot by 12 foot, that's empty and open and ready for something to be planted in. And this is the perfect spot for a fall crop. So let's talk about the 6 crops that I think are the very best to grow in the fall and when we're going to actually plant them. First on my list is my all-time favorite fall crop, and that is spinach. We love spinach as a fall crop. Spinach for us here in kind of the deserty part of Utah really struggles in the spring. We'll get it planted, we get it just to a harvestable stage, and then the weather warms up and it starts to bolt, okay? We just have an awful time growing spinach in the spring. We do it every year because we want to have it there, but we actually have a much better chance of having a successful crop in the fall because by the time those plants mature, the weather has cooled off. And so we're no longer having to fuss with the bolting issues. And so fall is a perfect time for planting spinach. You do have to baby it along a little bit. You'll probably want to cover the bed with some burlap or something like that to help with germination, but fall for spinach is a great time of the year. Another great crop for the fall is carrots. So we love to plant carrots in the fall. Again, you really have to baby them because it's a little bit hard to get them to germinate. So you're going to want to cover the bed with some burlap or something like that to help get that germination rate up. But once carrots get established and up, they are going to do really well in the fall, and they're actually going to mature in the late fall and early winter, which means that they'll get frosted and the cold weather is going to sweeten them up. They're a great crop for growing this time of year. Lettuce is another crop that does really well in the fall. Again, we're having the same situation as I talked about with spinach. We have less competition with the heat in the fall. So once those plants are up and established, we've had cool weather starting to arrive. And so we're not having tip burn, we're not having bolting, we're not having those plants get bitter because of the heat. That cool weather of the fall is a great time for planting lettuce. All different types of lettuce are going to do really well in the fall. Another one that we really love in the fall is Asian greens. So here we're talking about things like Napa cabbage, tot soy, and bok choy. All of these do really well in the fall. In fact, I don't even plant those in the spring anymore. Like I said with the spinach, the warm weather just arrives too quickly for us here in Utah, and so those plants want to bolt in the spring. And with those Asian greens, I have found that we are much more successful in the fall because daylight is going down, temperatures are cooling. That keeps those plants from actually bolting, which is perfect. And so we get much better harvests of Asian greens in the fall than we do in the springtime. So Asian greens, perfect crop for the fall. Next on the list is kale. Now this is summertime kale. Fall kale is so much better. And I know a lot of people don't love kale, but if you want to learn to love kale, plant it in the fall and winter because the cold temperatures make the sugars come out in the kale. So it turns those starches into sugars and makes for a much sweeter, tender crop. So kale is great for the fall. We love to put a planting in August that's going to mature in September or October. That's a great time for planting kale. So kale, awesome crop for the fall. And then number 6 on our list is a crop called Mache. So Mache is also sometimes referred to as corn salad. Even in Europe, you'll sometimes hear it called lamb's lettuce. This is a really good fall and winter crop. It's very cold tolerant, so planting it in the fall is just perfect time for it when it's going to grow really well. It likes those cold temperatures and will grow unprotected well into November and December in your garden. If you want to throw a hoop house over the top of them, it'll last all winter long. So Mache or corn salad is my 6th favorite crop to plant in the fall. So now let's talk about when we should be planting these, because getting the planting timing right is what needs to happen next. So all of these crops are cool season crops, which means we want them to be maturing when those temperatures are cooler. And so your target date for planting is sometime between 6 to 8 weeks before your first fall frost date. So a good example is my garden. October 1st is roughly our first fall frost date, and so we start targeting getting these crops in right around August 1st. And as long as we hit that window between August 1st and August 15th, we are in good shape. All of these crops are going to do really well. So take your first fall frost date, count back 6 to 8 weeks, and that is when you're going to be planting. So that's why I'm doing this video now in July, is so that those of you that live in those colder areas where maybe your first frost date's in the middle of September, you can get those crops planted because your planting date is going to start about July 15th. Now, how do you plant these? You can direct sow them if you have space in the garden. So all of these can be direct sown in the garden, anytime within that, 6 to 8 week time frame. But you could also start them indoors. So if you don't have space in your garden for planting them right now, you could get those seedlings started indoors in your seed starting setup. Get them started same timing, 6 to 8 weeks before your first frost date is when you want them to actually go in the trays. But either one is fine. And then you could set those transplants out, 6 or 8 weeks after they've been started indoors. For me, I'm trying to target getting those in about September 15th to October 1st is when I actually want to get those out in the ground if I'm doing it by seedling. But again, you can direct sow all of these. Of course, carrots, we're going to direct sow. And I also prefer to direct sow spinach. It doesn't transplant as well as some of the other crops, but all the others you could start indoors and transplant seedlings out later, or you can direct sow with all of those. All right, so that is my 6 favorite crops that you should be growing this fall, when you should be planting them. Make sure that you give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and get subscribed to our channel. And before you go, if you'd like to learn more about this whole fall and winter gardening thing, I have a perfect free mini course for you to go watch. This is called my year-round gardening mini course. It's about 45 minutes long. We talk about what crops you should be growing, when you should be planting them, and how to protect them for fall and winter harvest. And it's about 45 minutes long, free, and there's a link in the description of this video that you can click on to go get signed up for that. So go get signed up for that, and we would love to have you in that little mini course as well. All right, that's all I have for you for this week, my friends. Everybody have a fantastic week. Happy gardening.